Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Stadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadabhaktaya Namo Namaha Narayanam Gurum Vande Saranyam Bhakta Bandhavam Gauramanovistam Purnam Radhadasyam Pradayakam Rupanugacharya Varyam Rupamanjari Preshtakam Patita Pavana Bandhavam Yugacharya Narayanam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaura Twise Namaha Shama Sundara Shikanda Shekara Ismirahasra Murali Manohara Radhikara Sikamam Kripanide Swapriya Charana Kinkarim Kuru Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vrindai Tulasi Devi Ai Priyai Keshava Sacha Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavattai Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So first of all, I begin offering my most humble obeisances to the dust of the lotus feet of Paramardhatam Shri Guru Padapadama Nitrila Pravishta Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtotara Satasi Srimad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj Srila Gurudeva, and to my Ushibabo Shiksha Guru Om Vishnupada Ashtotara Satasi Srimad Srila Bhakti Vijnana Bharati Goswami Maharaj, and to all Shri Rupano Gauriya Guru Varga, to all Tridandi Sannyasis, Brahmacharis, Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis, and to all the assembled devotees here, today my most respectful obeisances. So by the causeless mercy of Srila Gurudeva and all Mahabhagavatas Acharyas, we are able to assemble here one more time. So continue reading from Sri Ramananda Samvada, the chapter under the guidance of the Sakis. So the following evidence shows the personified Vedas performed bhajan in Rag Marga. This is a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:87-23. And the verse says, the personified Vedas are praying, O Lord, greatly learned sages and yogis, having conquered the life airs, mind and senses, by strictly practicing the mystic yoga system and worshipping the impersonal Brahma effulgence, have ultimately achieved the position of nirvana or liberation. But even your enemies have attained that position simply by thinking of you in enmity and always desiring your ruination. Shri Radhika and your other eternal beloveds place your nectar-filled lotus feet on their firm breasts, being attracted and bound by the beauty of your supremely soft, rounded, elongated, nicely decorated arms, which are like the kings of serpents. We have also tasted the nectar of your lotus feet in exactly the same way as have your eternal beloveds, the gopis, by following in their footsteps. So here in this verse, it is clear that no any other path of self-realization can give you the service of Krishna's lotus feet apart from Raganuga Bhakti. We are not even speaking about any kind of bhakti, only Raganuga Bhakti. And there are so many yogis, jnanis, tapasvis who are trying very hard to meditate on Krishna. But what to speak of meditating? they cannot even see Krishna in front of them. What to speak of having the touch of Krishna's lotus feet, or being even able to get the dust of Krishna's feet? It's not possible. This is very, very well explained also in another verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is being quoted by Srila Sanatana Goswami Pad in Brihad Bhagavatamrita. It says like that, that the feet dust of Krishna is not so easily obtained by all these great endeavors. Even Brahma himself, he did not get the feet dust of Krishna. When he came to Vrindavan, that was for challenging Krishna. And all the way to the end of that Brahma Vimohan Lila, what happened? Did he get Krishna's feet dust? No. Very briefly, Krishna looked at him, very briefly. Krishna glanced at him and continued playing with his sakas. That was much more interesting. So, and why is that this feet dust is so easily obtained by the Vrajabasis? The main difference is that the Vrajabasis, they never think Krishna is God. And all these other great personalities, they try to grasp Krishna in their meditation by accepting him as God. Brahma was looking at Krishna not for play, not for watching his beautiful leelas with the sakas. He was searching for God. And all these sages, these yogis, they're searching for God. They don't want to develop the intimate relation with God. And of course, in that case, can only be Krishna. So therefore, we cannot say intimacy with Bhagavan. Intimacy can be only with Krishna. Service you can do to Bhagavan, because all aspects of Bhagavan accept service. But intimacy is only with Krishna. So this is very rare. Krishna's feet dust is very rare. Very rare. And even those who have it may not even realize how valuable actually they are, right? So in this way, in this verse, the word Arayaha indicates the enemies of Shri Krishna, such as Kamsa, who always thought ill of Shri Krishna. Or, to be precise, who always thought of him in fear. By remembering him in this way, his enemies achieved liberation, or Brahma Sayuja. The very same destination achieved by the yogis and saints after millions of years of extremely difficult austerities. That is the first astonishing thing. It is definitely astonishing. You were thinking of Krishna as your enemy, as someone who is, that's someone that you want to kill. But even though this is a bad thought, there is no Aishwarya Mai, Bhava. There is also a sense of intimacy, because they don't think Krishna is God. Understand? So how they can kill God? So they never think Krishna is God. They just think Krishna is an ordinary person. So for that, it also brings a sense of seeing Krishna as a person. And by that, Krishna is also pleased somehow, and Krishna will also deliver them. Because these leelas, these intimate leelas, these sweet leelas, need this type of people, like the demons. To think bad of Krishna, try to kill him, so that he will kill them instead, and he will be acting as a human being. But the second amazing point is that the same destination is achieved by both saintly personalities through their constant meditation upon Bhagavan, and those demons who always think incessantly of Bhagavan. Third, saintly persons who faithfully worship Bhagavan with full devotion and knowledge achieve the same destination as the enemies of the Lord, who consider him to be an ordinary human and even harbor feelings of hatred and violence towards him. There is another utterly remarkable concept in the words Uragendra Bhoga Bhuja Danda Vishakta Diyaha. The hearts of Shri Krishna's beloveds were attracted by his charming arms, which, being soft, rounded, and elongated, resembled the body of the king of snakes. Those gopis who were embraced by his arms and who considered the all-pervading Shri Krishna to be limited, clasped his soft lotus feet to their breasts. Shri Krishna's heart, burning with the fire of lust, thus became supremely cool. In this context, Sama refers to the following gopis, and by so doing, the personified Vedas achieved the bodies of gopis and received the nectar of Shri Krishna's lotus feet. Here is one more point that merits deeper thought. The eternally perfected gopis consider Shri Krishna as their upapati, or unwedded lover, and they also regarded him, or his form, to be localized or limited. The Shrutis, however, consider Shri Krishna to be the supreme truth, and therefore they accepted Shri Krishna as all-pervading and unlimited. Hence, the Shrutis offered prayers and attained the bodies of gopis, the accomplishment of which is extremely hard. Only by virtue of being under the guidance of the gopis did it become possible. So many jnanis, yogis, they study the Vedas, like Shrutis, Smritis and others, trying to attain what? Knowledge of the Brahma, knowledge of the impersonal aspect. But the Vedas itself, they don't want that. It's funny, no? They don't want that. What they want, Gopi Bhav. So, but this type of information, even those yogis and jnanis, they don't have. They cannot realize the desire of the Vedas itself or themselves, in case. So it is also worth bearing in mind that the gopis are Shri Krishna's eternal beloveds. Therefore, it is completely natural for them to hold his lotus feet to their breasts. The Shrutis, however, are not Shri Radha's Kayavyuha Rupa, his bodily expansions, and not his eternal beloveds. Still, they too held Shri Krishna's lotus feet upon their breasts, which is very rarely attained. In Gopi Gita, we hear that when the gopis ask Krishna to place his lotus feet on their breasts, it's actually because they want Krishna's lotus feet to be the most soft thing. And they think their breast is the most soft thing. The other explanation is that when they want Krishna to touch their breast with his hand, it means they want him to touch his heart. When they embrace him tight to their breast, it means heart, not the breast itself, in the sense of like mundane relations like that. Because for women, it is very easy to bring something close to their heart and it will touch their breasts automatically. The men, they don't have, so automatically it comes directly in their chest. So this is the actual feeling of the gopis. They want to hold Krishna tightly to their hearts. But in between it comes the breast, that's it. It is also, the Brihad Vamana Purana testifies that the Shrutis had been praying unto Bhagavan for a long time. This pleased Bhagavan. So now you should note the evidence. What is the pramana? Where you find this? If someone asks to you, from where do you get this information? You say from Srila Narayana Goswami Maharaj. Say they do not believe you. It's not evidence for them. What is that? Brihad Vamana Purana. So Brihad Vamana Purana testifies that the Shrutis had been praying to Bhagavan for a long time. This pleased Bhagavan, and when he asked them to choose a benediction, they replied, "We want to perform loving service to Sri Krishna as the Braja Gopis do." Sometimes people criticize Gurudev. Oh, he sees Gopi Bhav everywhere. He's making everyone mad for the Gopis. This is not him. He was the one who also became mad because of that. But before him, already most have become. So we can see clear, this is not his, even his means Bhavanuvada is not something which comes from Ihas. This is in Shastra. So this is evidence for everyone. Bhagavan said, "O goddesses, this desire of yours is very difficult to fulfill. However, your desire shall certainly come to pass." That very moment, by the mercy of Bhagavan, the Shrutis achieved birth as gopis in Braja and attained the service of Shri Krishna in the mood of Upapatya Bhava, or unwedded relationship. This is very beautiful, and this is very insightful as well. This is the ultimate evidence for showing the supremacy of the gopis. Even the Shrutis themselves. Shrutis means the four Vedas, Upanishads, like that. Vedanta Sutra. This means Shrutis. What was heard. So, what was directly written by Srila Vyasadeva. So next one. Samadrisha Shabde Kohe Shai Bhave Anugati Sama Shabde Kohe Shrutira Gopi Deha Prapti Angripadma Shudhaya Kohe Krishna Sangananda Vidhi Marge Napaye Braje Krishna Chandra. The phrase is Samadrisha means to accept the Anugatya, guidance of the Braja Gopis, and to perform bhajan following their moods. Thus, these words signify the acceptance of Upapatya Bhava, or the mood of the gopis as being in an unwedded relationship with Shri Krishna. Use of the word Samaha specifies that by bhajan, the Shrutis attained beautiful bodies, just like those of the Braja Gopis. Thus, they are called Samaha, which means the same or equal. The words Angripadma Sudha means the nectar emanating from the lotus feet of Shri Krishna, or the happiness generated by the service of their intimate association with him. The Shrutis accepted the guidance of the Braja Gopis and did bhajan, taking on the Gopis' bhava towards Krishna. They received accordingly the bodies of Gopis in Braja, and it was in these bodies that they obtained the intimate association of Shri Krishna in the ecstasy of his service. By contrast, one cannot attain Brajendra Nandana Shri Krishna by practicing Vidhi Marga, the path of devotion according to regulative principles. Only those who practice Raganuga Bhakti, or spontaneous devotional service, like the personified Vedas, can achieve that. I mentioned the very beginning of the lecture today. Only Raganuga Bhakti can take you to Krishna in Vrindavan. What to speak of Gopi Bhav? So it must be in Raganuga Bhakti. Cannot be any other place. So Srila Gurudev used to give a very good teaching. He said, even if you have the deity of Radha and Krishna, okay, if you worship Radha and Krishna, expecting to be maybe their servant in Goloka Vrindavan, or but you worship them by following Vaidhi Marga, Vaidhi Bhakti, then automatically they will become what? Lakshmi Narayan. They cannot stand in front of such person who is serving them with this mood of Vaidhi Marga. Although the deity is there, but we know that Radha and Krishna, they are the origin of the other couples. So Lakshmi and Narayan are inside of Radha Krishna, not the opposite. So if you worship them according to the rules of Vaidya Bhakti, you can never achieve Vrindavan, Goloka Vrindavan. Never. So therefore, we should be very careful. Should be very careful. We should always pay attention to what Mahaprabhu is saying about Bhav Seva. How to perform service like Raghunatha Das Goswami, as Mahaprabhu instructed him to perform Bhav Seva. So we have to be conscious about that. Some rules we have to follow, and some rules we should reject. Even in our beginning stage, we should start practicing that. So I wanted to give some example, but nothing came in my mind about deity worship in that regard. But anyway, if come later, I will mention about some devotees, how they worship Radha and Krishna, thinking that they will get the fruits of Braja Bhakti, but not, because of their Aishwarya mood towards the worship. Okay, so let us move on. So in support of this, the following verse is quoted from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:9-21. Nayam sukhav bhagavam dehinam gopika shuta gyaninam chatma bhutanam jata bhakti matamiha. This is a very important verse. Shri Shukadeva Goswami is saying to Parikshit Maharaj, Bhagavan Shri Krishna, the son of Madhya Yashoda, is easily attained by those devotees engaged in spontaneous loving service. But he is not as easily accessible to the performers of severe austerities who remain attached to the body, or to the mental speculators, the jnanis, who are striving for self-realization, or to the seers of the self. Seers of the self means the yogis who are meditating Paramatma, in Atma and Paramatma. This is called seers of the self. So here it says, Dehinam Gopika Sutta, this verse. Gopika Sutta, the son of that Gopi. That Gopi means Jashoda. So Krishna, the son of that Gopi, Jashoda. He cannot be achieved by the endeavors of yogis, jnanis, tapasvis, those who perform severe austerities. They can only be achieved by what? Those who are engaged in spontaneous, loving service. Bhagavan Shri Krishna allowed Mother Yashoda to experience indescribable joy in considering him to be an ordinary child, as she witnessed his childish restlessness and bound him with a rope. His joy is not possible for anyone other than those in Sri Jashoda's own group. Miss Jashoda, she has many other gopis who are having that Vatsalya Bhav for Krishna. These pastimes are being also witnessed by those gopis who are in a very close group of Jashoda. Just like Radha has their own close group, right? With Rupa Manjari, Lalit and others, Jashoda also has, and the Sakas, they will also have. It's always like that. There are some main groups and the other, coming levels of relationship. Such inexplicable joy is unavailable to those who perform great austerities, while all the while identifying with the body. The performer of austerities may receive some minute realization of Shri Krishna if any Mahabhagavata bestows mercy upon him, and then offers those endeavors to Shri Krishna. Again, by the mercy of association with devotees, both he who is Atma Bhuta, meaning free from identifying the body as the self, and he who considers himself to be non-different from the Supreme, may also partially realize the Swarupa of Shri Krishna as the formless impersonal Brahman. The performers of austerities and the Gyanis never directly realize Shri Krishna's Savishesha feature, means full of transcendental attributes. So Savishesha means full of qualities, and Nirvishesha means without qualities. Okay? Without following the Braja Gopis, even Brahma, Shiva, and Lakshmi herself are unable to achieve the service of Shri Krishna, the son of the king of Braj. In this way, Shri Shukadeva Goswami has glorified to Parikshit Maharaj the transcendental natural quality of the Ragatmika Bhakti of Madhya Yashoda and the other ladies of Braj, with which they can easily bring Shri Krishna under their control. Now, new Bengali verses are there. Ataiva gopi bhava kori angikar ratidina chinterada krishnera bihar siddhadeha chinti kore tahani sevan chakki bhave pairada krishnera charan gopi anugatya vina arshvar jagane bhajile hana pai brajendra nandane tahate drishtanta lakshmi korila bhajan tatapi na pailo braje brajendra nandan. Very important verse is this one. Especially this one. Gopi anugatya vinashwar jagane bhajili hanapai brajendra nandane. When you go to Parikrama, when we reach Belvan, the place where Lakshmi is performing austerities, Gurudev always quote this verse, and the previous also that we heard previous lecture, that was Sei Gopi Bhava Amrita Jara Lobh Hoy Veda Loka Dharma Tyaji Shri Krishna Vajay. Why Lakshmi Devi is not getting that, what she wants so easily, that is to serve Krishna Rasa Leela, means have intimacy with Krishna. Doesn't matter if it's Rasa Leela or not, but having intimacy with Krishna. Why she's not getting it? What Jogamaya told her? Oh, if you don't behave like a gopi, if you don't follow the gopi's footsteps, then you will not get it. Therefore, gopi anugatya vina arshvajagane. Without the guidance, anugatya of the gopis, you cannot. Bhajile nahi pai Vrajendra Nandana. You cannot get Vrajendra Nandana. So let's see the translation. Only on the path of Raganuga Bhakti, or spontaneous devotional service, does one achieve the service of Brajendra Nandana Shri Krishna in Braja. That same achievement is not possible on the path of Vaidhi Bhakti, or regulative devotional service. Therefore, the sadhaka should submit himself to the mood of the gopis, and day and night always think of Shri Radha Krishna's pastimes that occur at the time of the day. Holding in mind the spiritual body that one has received from the spiritual master, and being endowed with the moods of the Sakhis, one should perform service via the appropriate, internally conceived spiritual form, Manasi Seva, to the feet of Shri Radha Krishna, according to the appropriate place and time that their pastimes are being performed. This is a very high stage. We are talking about here of someone who has realized his Swarup by the mercy of Gurudev, and he's able to meditate in that Swarup in relation to the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. But this is a sadhaka stage. This is what? Bhav Bhakti. Stage of Bhav Bhakti. And what is that? Seva sadhaka rupena siddha rupena chatrahi. Tadbhava lipsna karja brajaloka anusarata. I think last time I mentioned to you the three main verses of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, wasn't it? Okay. So one of them is this one I quoted now. What is that? Seva sadhaka rupena. You have to perform service in two ways, with your sadhaka sharir and with your siddha sharir. Have to perform service with your spiritual body, which is already manifested. But at the same time, you have to perform service with your physical body because you are there, still incarnated. And this is the stage that the Goswamis manifested. This Bhav Bhakti. So the Goswamis, they are the embodiment of that stage. That is our aim. Gurudev always says, our aim is Rati. Rati means Bhav. If you say that your aim is prem, this is too much beyond and too high. Better to desire bhava. First desire bhava. Because once you get bhava, everything is easy. Much easier. By the mantra and bhava, here there is a footnote for bhava. Here bhavas refer to ekadasha bhava, the 11 integral parts of one's spiritual form as a resident of the transcendental Brajadham, and panchadasha, 5 stages of development in one's spiritual absorption, culminating in samadhi. So, by the mantra and by the bhava, receiving from the guru who is expert in tasting the mellows of Braj, and by following the appropriate sentiments of one's particular relationship with Sri Krishna, one should become absorbed day and night in the remembrance of Sri Radha Krishna's Ashtakarya Lila, their eternal pastimes performed throughout the day. In Jaiva Dharma, we have this very clear example by Brajanath and Vijay Kumar, when they take shelter of Raghunath Das Babaji Maharaj, and both develop taste for different type of ras. And Babaji Maharaj will guide them towards their awakening of that Swarupa, although it may be different, but because Babaji Maharaj in the topmost ras, as maid servant of Srimati Radhika, he can nourish the other ones. So therefore, by Guru's mantra and bhava, is very important. So externally, by the sadhaka deha, one should follow the limbs of bhakti, such as singing kirtan, chanting a fixed number of holy names daily, and offering prostrated obeisances to the deities, the Vaishnavas, and to the Lord's dhammas, associates, and pastime places. Internally, however, in one's mentally conceived spiritual body, one should remain absorbed in the 8-fold daily pastimes of Sri Radha Krishna, so that one may achieve perfection. If one does not accept the anugatya of the mood of the gopis and remains fixed in the concept of awe and reverence, thinking, Sri Krishna is Swayam Bhagavan, the supreme controller, the Lord of unlimited universes, and I am a most insignificant jiva, then even despite performing bhajan, one can never achieve Brajendra Nandan. So here, very important point, he's saying that the conception of intimacy is even more important than the bhajan itself. Because you may do the bhajan, but if your conception, your inner inclination towards Krishna is with awe and reverence, then no matter how much you sing, you chant, you perform parikrama in Vrindavan, no matter, it's not going to give fruits. So being attracted by that service rendered by the Brajavasis, particularly by the gopis, even Lakshmi Devi, who is worshipful for everyone, come to Braja to serve Sri Brajendra Nandan. Yet, because of her knowledge of Shri Krishna's opulence, Aishwarya Jnana, and because of her not coming under the guidance of the Braja Gopis, she remains cheated of that service to this very day. Lakshmi didn't get yet. She's still there, doing tapasya. Will she get someday? Maybe. Everything is open for her right now. In his commentary on Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita called Sri Anubhasya, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada has stated that beyond the present gross and subtle material bodies exists the spiritual body appropriate for the service of Sri Radha Krishna, which is called the Siddha Deha. As a result of mundane fruitive activities, the jiva receives a material body, which due to desires for gross material enjoyment, eventually transforms into the attainment of yet another material body. The jiva becomes covered by a subtle body, the mind, but desiring to enjoy materially, and then uses the mind to accomplish this. Thereafter, upon that, he achieves another gross body. In this way, under the influence of his lusted material desires, the pure spirit soul accepts birth in this material world, temporarily taking on both gross and subtle bodies. However, when the nature of his desires changes, the happiness of Shri Krishna becomes everything to him, and he receives an eternal spiritual body in Vaikuntha or Golokadham, in which he performs transcendental service to Shri Radha Krishna. For the subtle material body, it is impossible to comprehend an object that is beyond either material or the purview of its own enjoyment. Therefore, only the devotee who is beyond the influence of the three modes of material nature, being attracted by Shri Krishna's transcendental qualities, becomes situated in his own appropriate spiritual body. Assisted by his transcendental senses, he contemplates that object, which is non-material. He performs transcendental service under the guidance of the transcendental moods of the Sakhis to achieve, at last, transcendental service unto the lotus feet of Sri Radha and Krishna. Without the Anugati of the Braja Gopis, one does not achieve the service of Brajendra Nandana Sri Krishna, despite performing bhajan with a mood of great awe and reverence. The verse mentioned below from Srimad Bhagavatam proves this. So we are going to read this next time. Now I have to stop here, and we will continue next time. Okay? Hare Krishna.